with why are we doing funder research? Thank you, Liz, for that recording. Why are we here? Why are we doing funder research? So the reason why we do funder research to begin with is to target the right funders, right? Some of us might come into an organization that already has a list. Some of us might not know who to go to, but doing the research helps you focus your efforts on funders that are most likely to support your work. Time is money, and we cannot afford to waste our time with funders who might not align with us, right? So doing that research ahead of time lets you target those funders in the right way. Crafting a stronger proposal. Once you get a better understanding and you do your research on these funders, you get to utilize some of the language that they use and you understand their priorities, which can help you really prioritize what part of the program you want to talk about the most, right? Again, avoid wasting time. So preventing the prevention of pursuing a funder that's not a good fit for your organization. They might be a great funder for the ecosystem, but they might just not align with the work that you do. So we want to make sure that we spend our time wisely, we go to the right funders, and we do our research to make sure that we prioritize those people first. And lastly, building intentional strategic relationships, right? Engaging with a funder in more intentionality, being more informed and in a meaningful way. So if you understand the history behind a family foundation, that will strengthen your relationship long-term, strategically and intentionally with your funder. So now that we kind of understand, the reason why we have to do funder research to begin with, let's go into laying out the groundworks and where to start to begin with. So where do we want to start? There's a ton of places to start, but for us, this is where we best believe you should be starting. So you have to know your own organization's mission, vision, programs, and values. You can't really interpret whether a funder is a good match for you if you don't really understand your organization's ins and outs and the history and the programs and the values of your organization. So right now, we're going to offer the space for two people to share out quickly their mission and vision. Free little shout out. This is a recorded audio. It's going to be going on our website. So if you do want to share a little bit about your organization real quick, you can raise your hand or you can come off mute. But this is just kind of to practice that first initial idea of like knowing your own organization's mission and vision. So feel free to come off mute or you can raise your hand.
I can go ahead. This is Jerry with School Connect. School Connect exists to gather a village of community support around every local school so that every child has the resources, connections, and support to reach their potential.
Thank you, Jerry. Good to see you too. Does anyone else want to go? Do a quick little shout out to their organization. It's okay if y'all a little shy right now.
I can go.
Nicole, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I work with Chispa, Arizona. Our mission is organizing within our Latinx communities to grow political power and civic engagement for environmental justice. In Arizona, we build the capacity of Latinx families to influence policymakers and pressure polluters to protect communities' rights to clean air and water, helping neighborhoods and a safe climate for generations to come. And then we also envision communities that enjoy clean air, clean water, open space, and parks, and the security of knowing that our planet can sustain us today and for future generations, and a democracy in which all people can choose who will represent them and in which those representatives are accountable to all their constituents. And then lastly, a strong and powerful environmental movement that reflects the values, priorities, and leadership of Latinos, low-income families, and communities of color.
Thank you so much, Nicole. See, Jerry and Nicole got it down. That's the kind of way that you want to be able to express your own mission and vision and programs before going into your funder research. You'll have such good grounding while going into that. So the things that you want to look for when doing your research, firstly, a mission alignment, right? Ensuring that your project's goals matches with the funder's objectives, increasing the likelihood of successful partnership and funding approval. So just knowing that this funder is also working within the same realms of work that you're doing and they share similar values is just a great start to have. Funding priorities, identifying the specific areas or issue areas that the funder supports, allowing you to tailor your proposal to increase the likelihood of funding. Now, I will say that with really getting into nitty gritty with funding priorities, you want to stay away from mission creeping, which is essentially this idea of changing your program or adding more to your program that doesn't align with your own mission and vision, but rather to align with the interests of your funder. So we want to make sure that we center our own organization and your own mission and vision with these programs. And even though someone's going to say, hey, I want to give you 200K to knock some doors for us as part of this program, but if that wasn't initially part of the program and your organization doesn't knock doors, then that's not something you want to add into your proposal. So that's just something to kind of stay away from. The third thing, application processes. So providing clarity on how to properly submit a proposal, avoiding any pitfalls and ensuring your application meets all requirements. Some applications are on a rolling basis. Some applications are open. You might need to talk to the grant officer. It all really depends on the foundation. So understanding what that process looks like is super crucial. Any deadlines for grant cycles or even understanding when their grant cycle is helps you obtain a plan for your application's timeline, ensuring that you meet the submission deadline. Some foundations, some funders have key dates that they have set every year for funds. Some don't have any dates. So it all really depends. And that's something that we want to make sure that we include in our funder portfolio. Past grantees or past grant recipients offers insight into the types of organizations and projects that funders have supported before, helping you understand their preferences and how to position your request. This also helps with, knowing if there's a partner organization that we work with has a connection to a funder or was a past grant recipient. That person can also make an introduction to us if that's a funder that we see ourselves aligning with. And then any past history with your organization. So reveals previous interactions and funding relationships with the funder. So if this person has attended funder briefings before, if this person receives your executive director emails or your newsletters, that's something to also jot down. And then finally, after understanding what you're looking for and your organization, mission, and vision, you want to centralize all the information that you are collecting into one area. So here at Instituto, we actually created a funder portfolio template that houses all our funder information that we'll drop in the link right now or in the chat. So this will be accessible. I actually do have to make this view all. Okay, there it is. We're good. So this template you can utilize for your own needs, customize it as you want. But just to go over it really briefly, at the top, you'll see the foundation name. You will also get a space where you could put their logo. You can also put the funder if there's like a picture of one specific person that really associates with that institution. And then those various things that we outlined earlier, the foundation overview, mission alignment, and then there's a brief description on what you should be including in this area, right? And then going all the way down, including past grant recipients, contact information. So this really helps with long-term sustainable building in your organization. And so if anyone comes after you or someone new comes to the team and they want to understand, what relationship you have to this funder, all of it is already put into one centralized location. So you can create this for each individual funder. And below, you'll actually see the example that we'll be using today from the Norman Foundation and what that looks like complete. And this is referencing Instituto as the organization that we are going to be utilizing as a reference point. So now that we got that, and everyone will get this slide deck as well. So all the links, everything in here, you will be getting as a follow-up. So you don't have to write any of this down if you don't want to. Go ahead, Liz.
I just wanted to add to putting all of that information into a document not only is great for sustainability, like Mo said, if you should leave the organization, but also if you are giving a brief to somebody else, like if you're a development person and you need to give your brief to like an ED or someone else who's going to have like a one-on-one with a funder, having this and just being able to give it to them is huge, right? It like takes a lot of time and effort off their plate, and they just know that they can look at it and get like a great synopsis of what to expect going into a funder briefing or a funder meeting, and what sort of things to highlight.
100%. I'll even add, like, if you're going to any conferences, this is also a great place to reference since all the data and information is already put into one centralized location. Thank you, Liz. So now, in terms of finding our funders, what databases are available to us to just even start conducting our research? So we are not sponsored by any of these entities. So this is not a sponsorship or anything. This is just based off of our personal usage and experience. Candid, a nonprofit that provides comprehensive data and insight about the social sector, is a great resource. They have tons of free trainings, tons of free resources online. So I would definitely subscribe to every single one of these databases newsletters because they offer free grants. Well, not free grants, but grant opportunities without having to pay the fee, all types of stuff. So Candid is a great source to use. Within Candid, they have something called GuideStar, which is a database that has information on nonprofits entirely. So that includes their mission, their vision, their budget size, their funding priorities, really everything that we're looking for. There is limited free entries for that. So if your organization can utilize that source, I would highly recommend it. They also have a foundation directory, a tool that helps you find detailed funding opportunities beyond open requests for proposals. So this is not free, but a super great resource if your organization is able to get access to it. GrantWatch, it's a for-profit company that provides databases of grant opportunities from various resources within the federal, state, and private funders. This is subscription-based, but they also have tons and tons of free resources. Their newsletter is probably the one that I'm excited to get the most because they just give you like a list of different grants that you're able to apply for, and you could just click the link and go straight to the funder's website or wherever they're hosting that link. That opens application. So it's a great thing. Y'all definitely need to make an account and subscribe to their newsletter. And then one of my favorites, Influence Watch. It's a project of the Capital Research Center that tracks and analyzes nonprofit and advocacy groups' activities that provide transparency on their influence. This is very similar to Wikipedia. It's completely free. So there's tons of links similar to Wikipedia. You land on a page, it's like Michael Jordan. Then there's like 500 links within the page, and then you can end up somewhere with like tools at a farm, you know? So it's kind of the same, like you could really get into a rabbit hole with that and find, you know, I built a funder dream list off of this website. And I probably collected like 20 different funders that might align with our organization just by going through the various different links that they have at different profiles. And then of course, funder websites, they have tons of information. Some of the smaller funders will have a lot more transparency. They have a lot of information on their websites about their giving, grantees, etc. Some of those bigger foundations might not have as much information just because they hold a lot more. But they're nevertheless a great resource to double check. And then some we're going to go into today, the IRS 990 tax form, which will just give you a lot more in-depth detail on their finances and information around grants.
Well, we have a question in the chat.
Let's see. What are the average costs of some of these resources, and would you say a small organization can afford? It really depends. They're kind of one of those subscription-based or subscription-based entities where it's like if you have X amount of people in your org, this is like the payment that you have, and you kind of need to talk to a consultant first to get like a quote. For the most part, I have used GrantWatch for a little bit. I have used the GuideStar in the past. I haven't really been, you know, too detail oriented on how much it costs. It's just I have access to it, but they should be affordable. If you are a larger organization, it might be a little harder for smaller organizations, but I'm sure they also have deals for them too. And
there's on a lot of these websites, well, not a lot, but some of the websites, there is a certain amount of information that you can just access for free. But I think one of the most helpful documents is the one that Mo's going to go over now, which is completely free, which is the IRS 990 form.
100%. Okay, cool. So let's get this bread. Let's do a little quick walkthrough. So what I'm gonna do is go back to this portion and click on Influence Watch to give y'all a quick tutorial on how the website works. I'm gonna zoom in a tiny bit so folks can see. So this is the landing page of Influence Watch. You could probably find your own organization if you're a part of like the advocacy sector or civic engagement sector. You probably find your organization here. But what you'll see on the left-hand side, about us, report an error. If you see like a profile that, if you see your organization's profile on there, you could report an error if there's something that's incorrect. And then below, all the way down, you can see that it's broken into categories. So people, nonprofits, for-profits, labor unions, etc. So what I do, if you just want to start off like just broadly, don't know where to start, it's easy just to go and see the recent updates, or even type in something like housing, right? If you're in the housing, if your organization is working in the housing sector, right? And trying to get affordable housing, there's tons of organizations that come up. Some, I will say, some are far left-leaning organizations, some are right-leaning organizations. So you just gotta read through which one's which. But this gives you like a good synopsis on like all the various organizations that could be there. And then if you add fund to the end of it, you're most likely going to end up finding a foundation or some sort of entity that funds that type of work. So I know this one, the Bradley Impact Fund, is a right-leaning organization, right of center, right? And if we continue down, we could probably find a lot more organizations that provide funding. And so for the sake of time, I'm going to just go into our example, the Norman Foundation. This is a foundation that's been on our dream list. And so now I'm going to go ahead and search up more information about them. It does take a little bit. And so here's the first. And so what you'll see is this landing page. You can ignore the highlighted. It's just like an extension that I have. But you'll see that typically this first portion over here will be like the mission and vision. Some organizations don't have like the clear mission and vision for them to add in. So they kind of paraphrase from their website and other resources to create that. And then there's different subsections for as you continue to go down. But on this right-hand side, you'll see that there's the link to their website, their location, which is super helpful if you end up going to a conference in New York, for example. This is probably a funder that you want to get coffee with, right, to build that in-person relationship. Their tax ID, their tax exempt status, which is super important if you're looking to get C3 or C4 funding, their budget, the type of organization, and when they're founded, and their executive director. So this is just like a quick summary of some important details. But as we go down, we could see a section about their history, another foundation that's associated with them, the Normandy Foundation, their positions on various different things. And then it really gets into depth on like their grants, the bucket of works that they do. And then it breaks down like, I know that they're really big on environmental issues, right? The economic justice, right? So they break it down even more. So for bigger foundations, they'll have a lot more sections. There's a section of finances, leadership, and then you'll have the resources down here to reference back to. So for the sake of this funder portfolio, we can go down here and see that I highlighted at the beginning that the Norman Foundation is a leftist center grant-making organization that focuses on environmentalist and economic justice issues and movement building. For me, when I read this and I see movement building as a capacity building organization, this is something that really resonates with our mission, resonates with the work that we're doing. So we're already on a really good start. The foundation mandates that the grant request should further equity and fund projects that are likely to achieve leftist center systemic changes. So as we continue to go down, I just grab information that'll help paint a picture of their mission. So I have here that they're based in New York, established in 1936, as a grant-making organization. The foundation is committed to funding initiatives that promote equity and are likely to drive significant change, particularly those that uplift marginalized communities. This last portion here is the part of how this aligns with our work. So if anyone wants to see how the Norman Foundation aligns with Instituto's priorities or our mission, We focus on grassroots organizing, empowering local leaders, and long-term movement building, which makes the Norman Foundation a natural partner for our advancing our shared goal of systemic change. And then adding in here as well that they're a 501c3 organization.
Can I pop in for just a second, Mo?
Go ahead.
This is a great kind of callback to being able to do your elevator pitch or whatever you want to call it. That we had a couple people come on and give for their organizations, is because you might be wearing multiple hats and your time is limited for fundraising, unless you're one of those lucky people who just has either a bunch of money to throw at fundraising or multiple people dedicated to it. Being able to know your mission and vision and the specific strategies that you employ to complete that is really great to have top of mind, because as you're reading through these sort of dossiers on these organizations, then you're gonna see keywords that you're like, oh yes, this is one of the ones I want to come back to because they perfectly align. So for Mo, looking at Norman Foundation, some of those keywords that are important to what Instituto does: movement building, right? Promoting equity, drive significant change, focus on marginalized communities. These are ringing alarm bells in his head. So he can automatically sort of put them in a different tier when he's doing funder research. So I think more than anybody probably on the team, the development person should be able to give that spiel pretty quickly. It doesn't have to be verbatim, and I think it should be in language that's accessible to anybody to explain exactly what you do.
100%. And the mission could align, and maybe they don't have funding priorities that align with the work that you do. So this is just a good way to start your research. And then as we continue to search funding priorities and grant amount, you'll get a better picture of how well this organization fits with your mission and the work that you do. So now that we have our mission and vision down and the alignment of with our organization, now we're going down to funding priorities and average grant amounts. So what issue areas does this foundation or Instituto focus on, and what is their average giving? So based off of this document here, I can go down and see that the Norman Foundation seeks to promote economic justice through the grant money for community organizing groups. So this tells me that one of their buckets is economic justice, right? And I have that down here. And then similarly, just like what their mission was stating, through economic and environmental justice, as well as movement building, we can also make that assumption and cross-reference with their website in a bit and this landing page that those are the buckets of work that they primarily fund. So I add a little synopsis on, sorry that I keep going back and forth between the tabs, but I do add a little synopsis on what is it about this funding bucket that they do in particular. So for economic justice, again, supporting community organizing, coalition building, and policy reform efforts that promote fair wages, organized labor, and economic equality. And then this last portion I grabbed towards the end of the page, which is in 2021, the foundation awarded $305,000 across 10 economic justice grants. So doing the same thing for environmental justice as well as movement building, paints a great picture on where, what different kinds of buckets you can apply for. For us, if there is another organization that might suit this funder more than us, or even can suit other buckets of funding that we're not able to suit, we'll send it over to them, right? So for us, I highlighted this movement building portion. And this bucket of work funds groups that engage in civil disobedience and grassroots organizing to create lasting social change. And in 2021, they awarded $185,000 for movement building programs. And this is all information that was gathered down here. So we'll see that the Norman Foundation typically provides 25 to 30 grants per year, and grant applicants whose organization has an annual budget of under $1 million. And that's an important, that's also an important thing to note, is that this last portion, right, that they prioritize organizations with under $1 million. That's not to say that you shouldn't apply for this that you shouldn't apply for their grants or reach out to this funder. Just know that if your organization's well above 1.5 to $3 million, that you might not get the grant. But if your organization's well under $1 million, this is probably a funder that you want to engage with. Okay. And so,
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
You referenced a couple times like your dream funders or your dream list. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so my dream funder list is a list of funders that we're hoping and wishing to get funding from, that we might not have interacted with ever in the past, or might be outside of the civic engagement sector. So I'll just kind of go into, we can go back into here, Silicon Valley Community Foundation. This is a huge foundation with a revenue of $5 billion, right? This is one of our funders that we have on our dream list, right? I'd love to get funding from Silicon Valley. And then from here, I build a funder portfolio for them. I add them to the list, and then I kind of just continue to dig deeper, right? I see this link towards Ford Foundation, and this year alone, assets surged 13.5 billion, surpassing the Ford Foundation. This might actually be another another foundation that I might be interested in. So I continue to click, and then it continues to click and click, and that's where I continue to add people down my list and create profiles for them, so that at some point when I meet with a funder, or when I do deeper dive into their 990s and see partners who have been funded by them, that I can make that ask of, hey, can you connect us? Can you make an introduction for us? Or maybe ask that foundation itself, like, hey, will you be at this conference, right? So it's just it's a dream list of foundations that we're very hoping to get funding from. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, let's go back to Norman Foundation real quick. Okay, so we've gathered a lot of information from what this website was able to provide. Let's go into their the Norman Foundation's actual website to see if we can gather any more information or cross-reference the information that we've already gotten. So this is their landing page. We see the home, about, photo gallery, grant list, applying for a grant. So this is tons of information that we didn't even see at the Influence Watch, but this is super helpful that we can continue to build off of our funder profile. So we kind of got the mission and vision, so we don't really need to look too much into there, but we do need to understand what the grant process does look like. So we're gonna go ahead and look at apply for a grant, and then we're going to see how to apply. If the funder on their website has something laid out similarly to this, I wouldn't waste too much time on trying to synthesize this, summarize it, and putting it into bullet points in this profile. You can just really link it on here so folks can just access it really quickly. And if there's any updates, it will update on their website. But for the sake of this profile and this example, I did outline what it looks like to apply. So we'll see here that you can send in an application by sending a short 2 to 3 page letter of inquiry to the program director. There's no set deadline, so that answers one of our questions. And letters of inquiry are reviewed throughout the year. So this is on a rolling basis. There's no deadline. You can submit this at any point in time that you want. The foundation only accepts full proposals upon positive responses of the letter of inquiry. So this letter of inquiry is going to be something much more summarized of your proposal. And once they approve your letter of inquiry, they will ask for a full proposal. And it also tells you what you should be including in here. So there's tons of information on the funder website on how to go about funding. And for this Norman Foundation, they did a great job in illustrating what the thing is, where to send it once you're done. And then they also have at the bottom here, all inquiries will be acknowledged within approximately 4 weeks upon receipt. And if deemed promising, the foundation will request a full proposal. So we just got ton of information that's super helpful going into the guidelines, right? This is kind of what we saw originally in the Influence Watch page that they had, and then restrictions, right? And this is also helpful because we'll see a bit of a contradiction in the 990 about this, but you'll see that they do not make grants to individuals, universities, or to support conferences, et cetera, all of these things. I want to pay attention to our projects and direct social services, because we'll see later in the 990 that there is actually organizations that have gotten funding for our programs. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But essentially, all that information is put into this section about application processes and deadlines, and all the information is here. So if anyone wants to know how to go about applying for this, applying for a grant with the Norman Foundation, anyone on my team could just look at this profile and see exactly how to go about it. And then there's a link on the website, link to the website to see how to do that in depth. This is a lot of information. So we're going to take a pulse check. Can you please drop a 1 in the chat if you're with me? This makes sense. We're going good. We're strong. And then a 2 if you're kind of like, I get it, but I might have to watch this over again. Might have to get coaching. 3, it's like, I'm totally lost. I'm going to just watch this later. Okay. 1, yay, good stuff. Excuse me. Okay, cool. IRS 990 tax form. This is a daunting, low-key, kind of scary document to look at if you're not used to looking at tax forms. So we'll walk you through it. We'll hold your hand and take you through this daunting journey. What is a IRS 990 tax form? So it's an annual tax form for a tax-exempt organization showing finances and activities. So any money coming in, any money being spent, any money coming out is all going to be reported on this IRS 990 tax form. And you'll see that the 990s are from 2 years ago. So for now, you'll probably see 2022. You might see some 2023 990s forms on some websites, but for the most part, 2022 is the most recent 990 that you're able to look up, and each entity has its own 990. So for Instituto, we have a C3 and a C4. And if you want to get the bigger picture of Instituto as a whole, you're going to have to search up our C3 organization separately and our C4 organization separately, because we file 2 separate 990s for those entities. How is a 990 tax form useful? It helps reveal the foundation's funding priorities, past grants, financial stability, which really helps to aid and tailor, your grant proposal effectively. So if you want to ever know who they're granting out to, money that's being spent, this is the document to look forward to look at. And if you ever want to reference back to what lines mean what, this is the slide deck. All the information's here, so you'll see the relevant information on grants distributed, finances, total assets, list of grantees are all outlined here. And then I want to pay a little attention to this IRC section 4942. This is just something good to know. Stands for Internal Revenue Code section 4942. What is it? This is a regulation requiring private foundations to distribute 5% of their assets annually. So this helps you get a better idea of how much money they have to spend each year. So in total of all their assets, they have to spend at the very least 5% of that in charitable givings every single year, whether that is in grants, sponsorships. Sometimes that can include operation expenses, but for the most part, it's really referring back to how much money they have to give in charitable givings. And those relevant lines will be the net value of non-charitable use assets on part 9, line 5, and then the minimum investment return, which will be right under that section. Now, how do you access a 990? There's 2 websites that we use, ProPublica and the IRS website, and I'll go in depth on both to just kind of show you how to utilize it, but we'll start with ProPublica. So this is going to be the landing page for the website. You're going to type in Norman Foundation or whatever foundation you're looking up. Now we have 347 results. That's a lot. Let's go to this right-hand side to sort it out. We know that, again, right, that this foundation is based in New York. So we're going to go ahead and search that up. New York, apply, and then I see here is the Norman Foundation that I am looking for. This website gives you a cool synopsis, a cool dashboard to kind of just see everything really quickly. You can see their revenue, their expenses, their total assets, total liabilities. And if you scroll down, you can see their recent 2022 filing. And then again, it gives you a nice dashboard to kind of look at things really quickly if you want to. But what we're going to do is view filing on this right-hand side. Okay, now this looks kind of ugly, but we're going to get through it. So this is what the 990 looks like. You want to make sure that you're looking at private foundation. So 990 private foundation. If you scroll down, you'll see part 1, analysis on revenue and expenses. This is really everything that has to do with all things spent, all things received. So you'll see revenue from line 1 to line 13 is everything that came in, contributions and grants, investments, gross sales prices and all assets, net gain and loss from sales. So they made about $1 million in sales. And then a total of line 1 through 11 equaling up to $1.6 million. So money coming in, revenue, 1.6 million. And then we go a little further down and we see on the side here, operating and administrative expenses, compensation, how much they spent on salaries, right? 130,000. You have the other employee wages and salaries, legal fees. So it seems like personal stuff, but this is public information, y'all. And then you can see how much they spent on their total operating and administrative expenses, sitting at 643,000. And then in distribution for grants and contributions, they paid out about $1.1 million in grants in 2022. This is really good information to know as you continue to dig deeper into your foundation. And so what we want to do is scroll a little down. All this is good to just go through if you want to take some time by yourself to kind of read through and understand what each one is. It's a fun thing to do on your free time. I mean, I think it's kind of fun sometimes to just like go through some of these documents. And then we'll continue down. If you see all these words and no numbers, just keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. And then you'll come down to information about the officer. And then you'll see the president, Amanda, vice president, treasurer, secretary. And then you'll see the executive director and all different types of columns around them. And then if we continue to scroll down to that part about the 5%, we'll see here on page 8, on part 9, minimum investment return. So again, on line 5, net value of non-charitable use assets, they have $26 million worth of assets. They need to spend at the bare minimum 5% of this $26 million every single year to be in compliance of that code. And you'll see down here that they have to spend at least $1.3 million of that asset, of that total asset, to make sure that they stay in compliance with that code. So you will know, it's not gonna, their assets are not gonna fluctuate too much unless their assets are tied into like investments and stuff. But you could be conservative with your guesses and your strategic planning that, we can at least account for $1 million being spent in grants alone every single year from this foundation. And then as we continue to go down all the way, you'll come down to a section called supplementary information. And this is grants and contributions paid during the year or approved for future payments. So this will be all the grants that they had put out for 2022 or future commitments that they have made. So you'll see the organization, the address, if this recipient is an individual that has any relationship to the organization, their status, the purpose of the grant. Some entities will have a full description of what that grant was used for. Some will just have education programs. So you kind of just have to like see what they put in and then the amount that they had received that year. So for us, we want to look at who in Arizona, if any, had received funding from this organization. So I'm just going to Control F and I'm going to put AZ. And we see here we got a couple options. We see that ACE, Arizona Center for Empowerment, had gotten funding in 2022 for civic engagement at $5,000. So that's something, again, we're going to go back to this portfolio and outline that down below. 2022 Arizona Center for Empowerment, $5,000 civic engagement. And this is super helpful, again, when we think about strategic planning and we think about connecting with that funder. If I didn't have any connections to Norman Foundation, I at least know that Arizona Center for Empowerment has gotten funding from them and they have a connection to this funder, as well as Mi Familia Vota also has a connection to this funder. And then also recognizing, right, like what programs they got funded for also helps me understand, what are the things that they're looking to fund, right? So outside of just these Arizona organizations, you can continue to scroll to see, again, like arts programs. We saw earlier that they don't fund arts program or art projects, but some about ACE's arts program got funded. So that could be, maybe they had different branches of that program that got funded. Whatever the case may be, that's something that you can go talk to this organization about and see, but it gives you an idea that you could still apply to this funder's application, even though, it says not no art projects, but maybe it's like a more comprehensive, holistic program. And then we can continue to see coalition building, environmental programs, educational programs, research, youth programs, medical services. So this really gives you an in-depth analysis on where the money is going from this foundation, who are they really funding, what are the, what's the average amount. We can see here that the 25 to 30 does stay true, and that we see a lot of 20s, 30s, 25, $35,000 grants. So this is a great document to always reference back to. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and show y'all how to access the same kind of 990 on the IRS website. So this is the landing page. You'll go up here on the top right corner to charities and nonprofits. You'll go to this tax exempt organization search. You'll click search organizations. You'll click the same thing again, and then the same thing again. And then you'll get onto this landing page. What you'll want to do is go to search by organization name, and then you can type in Norman Foundation. The IRS is a bit slower when it comes to these things. So so for the Norman Foundation, I know that they have the 2021 version and not the 2022. So it's always good to reference back to other search engines. And we'll see here in New York, this is the right one, and they only have 2021 available. So 2 different databases that you're able to utilize as reference to your 990. Okay. So you just created and finished up your entire funder portfolio. You gathered all your information. What do we do with this profile now? You want to use that portfolio again, like what Liz was saying, to brief your team, to brief yourself, or whoever is going to go into the funder meeting. You already have all that information. It's great information to utilize prior to your meeting. So that's something that you can utilize it for. You could tailor your ask, designing your pitch to increase the likelihood of getting funding for your program. So now that you know that they're really focused on environmental justice and economic justice, if a part of your program is incorporating that kind of lens, then maybe you talk about that more than other parts that might not be relevant to the funder. Identifying potential connectors, right? We just found out that, ACE or Mi Familia Vota is an organization that has gotten funded from this entity. We should probably go to them to ask if they can make an introduction. Strategize engagement, right? Planning the timing and approach for contacting the funder based off their grant cycles. If you know that this funder particularly starts, their grant cycle starts in January, ends in December, you might want to talk to them in November, right, to get ahead, or October to get ahead of that cycle. And so when January comes around, you can talk to them. Or if it's open application or an open enrollment, then you could practically do it anytime. But it really does help with strategizing. Monitoring updates and leveraging insights, right? Using the portfolio to inform your long-term strategy and relationship building efforts. So I know we're cutting close on time and we have 4 minutes left, but we don't have enough time to practice. So I'll leave it open for questions, any share outs, any comments that folks have. I think there were some in the chat, so I'll take a second to look at those as well.
There was a question about a list of steps to actually like physically do the search. So we can put that together real quick, maybe with some screenshots and stuff, and just share with everybody. So I also got a private message about it too.
Yeah, we'll make sure to follow up with all the templates, more information, a recording of this training. And if you want any more tailored coaching on like the research portion of it, I'm more than happy to meet with anybody and dive deeper into that. Yay. Yes, these slides will be available. I'll be sending out a follow-up this week. And so you'll have the slides, you'll have the recording, you'll have the template and all the links associated with those websites that we went to embedded within the slide deck. Cool. Well, before y'all leave, don't leave yet. If y'all have questions, throw them in the chat. We have a lot of upcoming trainings for August. We have our Ready to Scale, like Liz was saying, tomorrow for rapid response. So you can go to our website and sign up for any one of these trainings. On the 19th and 26th, we have a data community of practice. This is the office hours and co-working. So if you're into data or data and analytics, or that's your role, feel free to sign up to that. Liz, do you want to touch up on what the Ready to Scale training is?
Yeah, it's meant for Marcom folks to be able to react rapidly. Like, I don't want to call it crisis communications, but I think it might talk about, I haven't seen the design of the program, but I think it might talk about like how to like put together like a statement really quick and be able to like just react with a little bit of agility to things that rapidly change. So like an example of this in real time is a lot of organizations had to rapidly react to like the changing of presidential candidates and like, you know, things like that. So more like comms and like a messaging Ready to Scale training.
Mm-hmm.
And then the minivan boot camp is for people who use, if you're familiar with Van Every Action Minivan, that database that a lot of civic engagement folks use, it's going to be a training on that.
Thank you, Liz. And lastly, before we hop off, we are a data-driven organization, so your feedback is super crucial to our growth and to the quality of the trainings that we provide. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, take a picture, we'll also be sending it in the follow-up email to give us your recommendations. How could we have done better? If you want coaching, you can also request that. And if there's any future trainings that you're looking forward to or want to dive more into, such as like, you know, the conversation or like your first funder meeting, for example, right? That could be a training that we can propose. We just want to hear your feedback on it. So please do the help us with this feedback and do the survey. It'll only take you a little bit. Yeah, so we could brag about our completion rate as well. And we'll make sure to follow up on that. And then thank you again, everyone, for being here, for taking time out of your day. And thank you. Appreciate y'all.
I'm going to stay on and drop links to the 2 Ready to Scale trainings.
Okay.